Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this is the federal election edition of Beyond a Ballot, powered by DoorDash. I'm Hannah Thibodeau. It is Friday, April 25th, and we have made it to the final weekend of campaigning. Can you believe it, ladies?
No.
We're all like, why am I excited and you're not? The finish line is in sight, everyone. So let's get right into it. So Pierre Poilievre was in Saskatoon, and he's going to head to Nanoose Bay, British Columbia. And Rachel Siegel, those ridings are leaning conservative. Is he playing defense here?
No, not at all. I don't think he's playing defense at all, actually, Hannah, in those ridings. Those are ridings that have seen traditional conservative pickups. So there was James Lunny held one of those ridings for a long time in the North Island. And what I think he's doing, he's been to Nanaimo and North Island many times, not only during this campaign, but over the last few years, because the Conservatives really saw the North Island as a potential pickup. And I think what he's doing is trying to solidify that support in the last days of the campaign. Those are swing ridings, and you typically would see the leader go to ridings where they think that they can secure that support. So I wouldn't say it's a defensive move. I would say it's an offensive move. There's amazing candidates up there, including Tamara Cronus, who has been working that riding for 4 years. She was the candidate in the last election. She's probably knocked, I think, on every single door in that riding. And she has worked her butt off to win that for the Conservatives. So I'm really personally hoping to see that go blue on election night. After tonight, he's back over to the mainland in British Columbia. We've talked about Battleground BC for all of the parties, but he will be in Richmond, which has flipped seats in the last election, and the Conservatives have held them traditionally. They're trying to win some of those back, including Richmond Steveston, a young guy named Zach Siegel, who's been a Conservative candidate there for a couple of races. A young dad just had a baby a few weeks ago, so hoping to pick that seat back up. They used to hold it, and I think that it's a strategic move for the leader to be in this neck of the woods to really shore up that support and show that the party is behind those candidates.
So let's talk a little bit of strategy with Liberal leader Mark Carney. He was in Sault Ste. Marie. That riding, Amanda Alvaro, is leaning conservative. And I think I feel the hockey thing because of the big Senators versus Toronto Maple Leafs. So is Mr. Carney playing offense? And I am saying I am cheering for the Senators, but I am sitting in Toronto. I'll see if I make it home alive.
Oh no, Hannah! To all the Torontonians listening, ouch! But that's okay.
We're not doing so well right now either.
But you never know where this could go. I think that he is, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Ontario could be the difference between a minority and a majority for the Liberals. So I think it makes sense to spend these final days in Ontario really on the ground in some of those ridings that have been Liberal ridings in the past that flipped, ridings that are really too close to call, ridings where you have excellent candidates, excellent local candidates who are really driving a lot of headlines. These will be the biggest headlines of the campaign, right? Because it's like the Saturday morning local papers will be sharing the final news before people head to the polls. So for him to traverse through Ontario, where if they pick up a few extra seats, again, it could make that difference between a minority and a majority. And that would be tremendous. He's not asking for a majority outright. He is saying that he wants a strong mandate. We've heard those words before. I think you remember Doug Ford just a couple of months ago asking Ontarians for a strong mandate in order to stand up to Trump and Trump tariffs. Similar sentiments being echoed by the Liberal Party in these final days, with Trump's, new response around auto tariffs and talking about Canada as the 51st state again. It's really put it in the spotlight. So Carney making that final pitch to Canadians, and especially to Ontarians who are hurt badly by the auto tariffs. This is the time to give the Liberals the strong mandate to stand up to Trump.
Yeah, and of course he was talking steel today too, because that is a steel town, and because of the aluminum and steel tariffs. Let's go to
Exactly.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Kathleen Monk, he is campaigning in liberal leaning ridings. He's in Toronto, Hamilton, and London. Talk about that strategy, Kath.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the flip side of what Amanda just said, right? Jagmeet Singh is out there and really putting the question to Canadians that if we give Mark Carney a blank check, a full majority, he will only have to listen to Pierre Poilievre. And the question that he's putting to him is like, you don't have to basically choose between two conservatives, the conservatives in Pierre Poilievre and conservative right-leaning Mark Carney. In fact, there is another option. So yeah, he's out there today. He was in Toronto last night, woke up in Toronto this morning, out to Hamilton and London, Southwest Ontario region, trying to pick up those votes. Because as Amanda said, Ontario's the big enchilada in terms of the number of ridings that all the leaders are coveting. And I really think that, we understand why Canadians don't want to choose Pierre Poilievre. He hasn't ever stood up for families. When has a conservative kind of made your life better tangentially in terms of some kind of thing that actually invests in your future and invests in your family? And we know that Carney, if he's only hearing from Pierre Poilievre in the House of Commons, he won't be pushed to do things like deliver on dental care, deliver on pharmacare, all of those things. So he's out there pushing hard for those seats, fighting every moment, and we'll stay in Southwest Ontario tomorrow as well too, swinging through those other areas to basically try to see what he can pick up in these last final days. There's been some pretty compelling op-eds or articles in the last few days. I encourage our listeners to check out some of the Toronto Star, one where Jagmeet's interviewed, where he talks about what he did to kind of fight those last few days. Also an incredible publication in the Vancouver Sun, which my friend Rachel will have read, no doubt, by Glenn Clark, a former NDP premier who got out and said basically, hey, you have other choices in this election, and made a compelling op-ed there. Encourage you to read those.
Campaign call out time as we head into the weekend. Rachel Siegel, you're first.
All right. My campaign call out today is to Radio Canada for telling the truth, because Mark Carney is in a lot of hot water today. Because he came out of his conversation with Donald Trump earlier this month, and he said, everything was fine. We had a respectful conversation. He didn't bring up being the Canada being the 51st state. Radio Canada came out yesterday and said that wasn't true. And Mark Carney is facing a lot of questions. This is really bad for the Liberal leader in the last few days of the campaign. He was on the defensive yesterday during his press conference with reporters asking him straight out, did you lie to Canadians to try and make yourself seem more capable of handling Trump? Because you'll remember that was really, Canadians were watching him very closely at that point in the campaign and how that call was going to go. He came out and said, nothing to see here. Well, actually, Trump did reference our sovereignty in that call, and Mark Carney was not truthful about that. And so I think that that's going to be a big problem for Canadians as we head to the polls. And it's really, as a campaigner, I had a lot of anxiety watching that press conference yesterday, because on the last few days of the campaign, you don't want your candidate answering questions for something that they did. You want them talking about their policies, shoring up that support. And so a bad day for the Liberals yesterday, and potentially a bad day continuing today.
Okay. Campaign call out for Kathleen Monk.
Well, it's a build on actually what Rachel said. Yesterday we were all pretty magnanimous. We were very virtuous in our campaign call outs, talking about candidates and the workers on the campaign. And today it sounds like we're digging deep for the dirt. And I actually want to give my campaign call out to the leakers that are going to leak. And in these last few days of a campaign, I think we're at E-3 if my math is right today.
Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And so what that means is you are literally reaching deep into your pile of oppo and you are throwing all of it out there in these last moments. And so there were actually two stories that were pretty interesting yesterday. I agree with Rachel that top of the pops for sure was the 51st state comment. And that leak must have come, in my estimation, this is just a guess, from the US side, that would have been leaked somehow to Radio Canada, because no one in the Liberal team would leak on their own guy, right? And so Carney had, as Rachel said, basically kind of dodge this bullet for the last 30 days or so, right, of the campaign. And it really did fundamentally shape the and frame up the ballot box question for him. So that was a pretty amazing leak. And in the last 3 days could inflict a lot of damage in these people who vote at the last minute. So and he does look on the ropes, and Carney does look really shaky. The other leaker I just want to point out to is those leakers in Nova Scotia.
Oh,
I don't know who they are either, but there's somebody who's leaking on the Polyev team. Basically that Premier Tim Houston of Nova Scotia had said earlier on in the campaign that he wasn't going to, when in his own Nova Scotia election, that he didn't want Pierre to campaign with him. But the fact that he didn't show up at Pierre's event in Trenton, Nova Scotia the other day is also getting tongues wagging. And that's because there has been some frosty calls, a little bit of brawling, it sounds like, between the two teams, the federal conservatives and the provincial Nova Scotian progressive conservatives. And so all these leakers are going to leak, and they're all going to leak at the last minute. And it does create for some interesting moments that we can all grab our popcorn and munch away.
But also, for context there, a lot of conversations about Tim Houston and whether or not he would succeed Pierre Poilievre federally.
And Hannah, if I could just add on that, that's really funny that Rachel says that, because
I know
that's a counter.
I wasn't even going to say it.
Right. So when someone leaks some nasty stuff at you, right, then you're like, well, that's because he's got leadership designs, right? And they've said that about Doug Ford. Now they're going to say that about Tim Houston. But it is a legitimate defense. Like, I agree that could be a motivation. Like, you're speaking to motivation, Rachel, and it could be, in fact, their motivation.
But Doug Ford had a great presser yesterday where he said Tim Houston put out a new ad where he's like, his hair is blowing in the wind off the coast of Nova Scotia, and Doug Ford was it's so good. But Doug Ford was asked about it. He said he's giving him what did he say? He's giving him the runaround on that one and poking fun at him. I can't remember the exact words he said, but Doug Ford obviously is like the Joker of the premier table and is giving Tim Houston a hard time on that one, which I thought was cute.
And if you haven't seen that ad, it is so good. The Tim Houston one. It's so good. Okay. Amanda Alvaro, your campaign call out.
Okay, well, you're going to have to give me time to both respond to Rachel's diatribe and also to do my own campaign call out. So let's start with point one. Mark Carney. Do I think it was the worst day? Absolutely not. I think that Trump says a lot of absolutely inane and crazy things. And the fact that he mentioned the 51st state, I think the point of that entire conversation and what Mark Carney reiterated once again was that it was, at least by appearances, a respectful conversation, and a conversation that Mark Carney made clear the intentions of Canada. They would never be part of the US, and that they would resume their negotiations around a new trade deal once the election was over, which the president agreed to. So I think that we can slice and dice for a comment here or a comment there, but I think the point was that he was trying to share with Canadians the sentiment and the view of the entire conversation, and that the big takeaway from that conversation was that they have both agreed, both the president and our current prime minister, Mark Carney, has agreed that once this election is over, once the Liberals are given a strong mandate, they will resume their conversations to get the best trade deal possible for both countries. So that's that. My own campaign call out is to a Liberal candidate by the name of Bruce Fanjoy. He's running in Poilievre's riding. It is so close in this riding. This is a team who has done almost the unthinkable. To actually unseat Pierre Poilievre would be it's like slaying a giant. It would be insane. It would obviously then predetermine what happens to Polyev following this election. Like him losing his seat is almost imaginable, but internal polls from the party, and this is what sources were revealing yesterday, show that they have Bruce Banjoy ahead. We know that the Conservatives are pumping all kinds of resources into that riding to try to make sure that Polyev saves his seat. But wow, will we be having fun on election night waiting for those results to come in? Because if it truly is neck and neck, that might be the riding to watch.
And
I mean,
tomorrow, we are diving into the ad wars. What did the parties put on your screen? And more importantly, did it work? We'll break down the TV buys, the social scroll stunts, and what each party actually spent trying to win your vote. Because in these campaigns, the message matters. We will bring you the spin, the spend, and the spectacular flops.
Thank you for listening. New episodes come out daily, and you can find Beyond a Ballot on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. A huge thank you to our title sponsor, DoorDash, and sponsors Equal Voice, Page, and Canada Powered by Women for making this election special possible. Speak to you tomorrow.